Hello, and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help you grow and evolve your direct selling businesses. In today's episode, host Wayne is joined by direct selling veteran Dallin Larsen, founder and chairman of Vasayo. In 2016, Dallin launched Vasayo, a direct selling company that specializes in health supplements and prides itself on having an advanced delivery system to provide maximum effectiveness for each customer. Vasayo is the latest success story for the man who has spent more than 3 decades in the channel, and it is the second nutrition company Dallin has launched in the channel. Not only have Dallin's companies made a difference in the lives of distributors and customers, but his success has earned him Ernst Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Award for the Utah region, as well as being named its National Entrepreneur of the Year for Emerging Markets. He also received the CEO of the Year Award from Utah Business Magazine. In today's conversation, you'll hear just how unique and personal his leadership style is and gain a better understanding of how making a difference in people's lives is part of Dallin's life's mission. Today on Direct Approach, Dallin and Wayne talk about the value of relationships and the importance of recognition in direct selling. Dallin talks about how his leadership style has evolved throughout the years, what he believes are the signs of a great leader, and how leaders should be planning for the future. Finally, they'll look at some of the changes taking place in the industry and what that means to all of us going forward. Before we start the episode, we want to thank this episode's sponsor and DSN premier supplier sponsor, Exego. In an industry that demands adaptability, Exego delivers unrivaled access to the data that drives your business, from CRM to transactions to commissions. Flexible, scalable, and powerful, with Exego, the possibilities are unlimited. Learn more at exego.com. That is EXIGO.com. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Dallin Larsen, founder and chairman of Vasayo.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and I'm excited to be joined today by an incredible individual. He has founded multiple direct selling companies. He has received the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, the National Award. He is currently the founder and chairman of Vasayo, my friend, Dallin Larsen. Dallin, welcome to Direct Approach.
Wayne, so good to see you. I knew you back when neither of us had hair still.
That's right. Yeah, even back then.
What year did we meet, Wayne?
2005.
So it's been 17 years.
17 years.
It's good to be with you today.
Yes, good to be with you as well. So I can't tell you how cool this is for me, Dallin, to sit with you. You've had an incredible impact on my life, both personally and professionally. You gave me a chance early on in my career to come run marketing department where I reported to you for about 5.5 years. You did a lot of incredible things there. It was an amazing team. I learned so much from you about leadership, about the channel, and even personally about being a father, about being a great son. And again, thank you for all you've done for me.
That's very kind, Wayne. I've always thought highly of you and so proud of you. I mean, like the success we achieved in those Monavie days, it wouldn't have happened had you not been overseeing the marketing department and helping us create an exquisite brand. So kudos to you. And I've followed your career since, and I'm proud of all the good that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, we had an incredible team there. The marketing department was amazing, and I'm really proud of all the things we accomplished there. So thank you for taking a chance on me. I was 29. I told you I was 30. I was about 3 months from 30 because I felt like that made me sound a little bit older. But yeah, you gave me a chance early in my career that really impacted the trajectory. So again, thanks for everything.
But Wayne, I think that's an example of like, you look at leadership and people who go out and do some good in the world, and they've all got somebody in their life, right? I've had people in my life, you've had people in your life that take a chance on you. And I'm glad that I took a chance on you, like I said. So you grew into that role in very short manner and did a phenomenal job. So it was really my honor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, some of my absolute favorite years of my career for sure. So jumping in, you spent the majority of your career in direct selling. You cut your teeth on the sales side where you helped grow a very well-known direct selling brand to about 100 million before you left to go pursue other opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit about the path that led you into direct selling and specifically why you chose that as a career path?
Thanks, Wayne. Well, I didn't grow up. I don't know that anybody grows up saying, when I grow up, I'm going to be in network marketing and start a company. I don't know. I barely graduated from high school. I was slugged in the face by my high school principal. I was told by my coach I'd never graduate. I got the lowest college entrance exam score on the ACT of anyone I've ever met in my life. That's a true story. And so, as I was sitting in the auditorium as a senior in Rexburg, Idaho at Madison High School, seeing people get scholarships and walking across the stage for a successful high school experience, I was in a rock and roll band. But I remember sitting in that auditorium thinking, they're not going to call my name, and they didn't. But I just remember feeling like it's not my time yet. I hadn't grown up yet. I didn't really care for school very much. So, but I was blessed to have amazing parents. Their picture is behind me on a desk. My parents are both now gone. They were married for 64 years. They raised 10 children, 59 grandchildren in southeastern Idaho. They taught me how to work hard. My dad was in the clothing business, and he said, man, I'm going to give you a discount on your clothes, but you got to buy your clothes. He gave me a 30% discount. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I realized he was making like 20% on everything I bought, me and his other 9 children. But I'd get up to an alarm clock at 4:30 every summer morning and go up into the potato fields and move irrigation pipe. And that's where I started to dream, Wayne, thinking, what's beyond these potato fields of Idaho? I want to discover the world. And after graduating from high school, I served a 2-year mission. I actually went to Israel for 6 months on a study abroad, then went on a 2-year mission. And that's where I started to grow up. I came back, went on to college, graduated from college. And then from there, I guess I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit because my dad was an entrepreneur, but I had 12 different careers after college and nothing seemed to fit. I'm just not one to settle in life. I'm not easily satisfied. And that's both a blessing and a curse, perhaps. But I remember my mom calling me once and saying, Dallin, when are you going to find something and stick with it? I think this is after I took a job in St. Louis at the May Company. And after about 6 months, I left because I just couldn't, it was so stifling for me. I said this to my mom, when I find what I was born to do, that's what I'm looking for. And I found this industry, network marketing, direct selling. I went to a meeting in San Diego, California at the Del Mar Hilton in 1989 and heard about this concept of network marketing. The company was New Skin, obviously a very successful company. I chose to get involved because I liked what I heard that night. I wasn't very good at it, but I fell in love with the concept of leverage, of everybody doing a little, of teamwork, things like that. One thing led to another, Wayne. And from a distributor at New Skin, I helped start a company by the name of Usana. And I spent 10 years. That's where I cut my teeth and realized what you can do if you get with a company at the right time with the right products and you're able to crystallize a message. You can go out there and build a global company. So that's what I did in the 1990s. I left there in 2000, started Moorehead in 2005. Like you said, we had a great run for the first 3 or 4 years. We took that to almost $1 billion in 3.5 years. The little hair I had left because it was a stressful experience, but I was loving it. Man, few people are able to have that experience of something in massive momentum. Anyway, I was with that company for 10 years. I retired. I thought my career was over in 2014. I had traveled all over the world. I'd paid out billions of dollars to people around the world. I thought I had made a difference and helped people. And that's really what I love to do, Wayne. I mean, in my heart, I'm not the smartest guy. I don't know a lot about a lot of things, but I love people. I understand that this business is a relationship business. And so it fits into my DNA. And that's what I've done over the last 33 years. I retired, Wayne, in 2014. I came home one day from playing golf. I shot par. I should have been happy. But I came home and I was miserable. And I was trying to figure out, why am I so miserable besides missing that 3-foot putt on 18? I realized that I was miserable because I wasn't doing what I was born to do. I wasn't making a difference in anybody's life. I missed this business. I missed being in the details of people's lives. So I decided after USANA, after Moorehead, come back and do it one more time, or try to do it one more time. It's not as easy as just getting out of bed and building a company. As you know, you got to have all the pieces of the puzzle in place. When I found the science that I wanted, products that I wanted, people that I wanted to partner with, I launched this company, and it's this month, by the way, is our 5th anniversary. So it's a big birthday month for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's been hard. Every day has been hard because the world has changed. Our cheese all got moved with the pandemic and things like that. But so we're into this, 5 years into it, and we're having fun.
Well, you've certainly proved your principal wrong. And and everybody at school with all the incredible companies you've built and lives you've impacted. So I want to step back just for a second to kind of those early days in Idaho. I'm curious how, if growing up in that really tight-knit community, and also you mentioned your time in Israel, and I know you spent time on a kibbutz there. How did that sense of community? I mean, you grew up in a very tight-knit community, very small rural community, but everybody knew each other. I'm curious how that informed kind of your leadership style. Was it community that you were looking for? Did those help you kind of bring people in and make them feel a part of a community and a greater sense of purpose? How did those early days impact your leadership style?
Well, when I found out about this industry, it felt like a family. And I grew up in an amazing family. Like I said, 10 kids, 7 boys, 3 girls, with parents who, I would say, they gave me roots and wings, not loot and things. I'm just so grateful for the principles and the values they instilled in me. And after I left home, maybe I was missing a sense of community and gathering. And I found that in this business. I think to the degree in which you're able, as a founder of a company, to be able to be true to your values, figure out who you are, what you stand for, don't deviate from that. Now, look, we all evolve, right? But be true to yourself so that when you look in the mirror, you can say, look, we may not be the biggest company, but I'm staying true to the things that are important to me. But that's what impacted me in a small town is I still have relationships. I treasure relationships, I guess, Wayne. And this business has allowed me to build relationships with people all over the world. Now, some people come and go in your life, but some of those relationships are from the early days of my career in network marketing. By the way, when I helped start USANA, I called all my brothers and sisters, and none of them said yes, except for one, my sister, Colette, who lives in San Diego. She was a single mom of 5 kids. 2 of them had a terminal disease. She said yes to me. To make a long story short, she went to work. She lost one of her daughters to cystic fibrosis. But over the next several years, my sister went from $8 an hour as a single mom to making over $1 million a year in the direct selling industry. She's earned a check every week for over 30 years with USANA. USANA is a great company. Kevin Guest is a dear friend of mine. He's the chairman and CEO of that company now. But that's what's possible if you get with a company that goes from small to big and you don't quit. That's the dream, right? To be able to earn a walkaway income, a residual income for over 30 years. And if my sister were on this podcast right now, Wayne, and you asked her, how much, Colette, did you make your first 6 months? She would say, I don't know, they're still paying me. Because that's the beauty and the value of what's possible as a company goes from small to big. But so, yeah, I think my parents instilling into me those values. I'm an Eagle Scout. I believe in those principles. By the way, that's why I got back in. That's why I came out of retirement. I was at Mount Vernon in 2000, I think, in 15, at George Washington's estate. And it was during the Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump primary season. And I could see the division that was happening in our country. I didn't like it. I mean, I remember back when Republicans and Democrats went to dinner, after they'd argue bills in Washington, D.C. And I just wasn't seeing it anymore. And I thought, man, it's time for leaders to stand up. Washington, D.C. and governments will never solve the problems in the world. In fact, part of me feels like they foment them to try to just for political purposes. I do not like that. I disdain that. I think it's important for leaders to stand up and speak truth into people's lives, provide a community and culture where everybody, regardless of your race, your religion, any other factor that divides people, a place where they feel valued and appreciated. And I'll tell you, Wayne, there's no sweeter sound to someone than the sound of one's own name. And I think when done right, direct selling does such a great job of recognizing people for their accomplishments. I mean, corporate America doesn't really do that, but direct selling can do that. And I love that as well. I love mentioning people and bringing them up on stage and giving them a check. I've given away free cars. Lots of fun things that are dream building, right? So that's what I guess attracted me to this industry, the sense of community, the sense that you could help people. Someone like me who barely graduated from high school that can go travel all over the world and create a couple of companies and count billions of dollars and become an entrepreneur of the year in America. If that's possible, and it's possible for anybody that has a dream, if they plug in with the right leadership, the right company with the right products where they can find their passion to change their lives forever and to be able to be a blessing to their family. I just returned about 10 days ago, I think. Maybe it's 14 days ago now. But I've got a bucket list, Wayne, and almost all those items have been checked off my list. Before my mom passed away, it's, my gosh, it'll be a year in 2 days, May 7th of last year. So it's been 363 days. Probably this time last year, as she was about to pass, I was with my mom and I knelt down to her ear and I said, Mom, she always taught me to leave the place a little bit better than I found it. And I said, Mom, I'm going to do everything I can, as long as I can, to leave this place a little bit better than I found it. And I want you to know that we've drilled a well. We're drilling a well in Africa in your name and Dad's name. So long after you're gone, there's going to be children in Africa that are going to be drinking fresh water, where 2,000 of them die every day because they don't have access to fresh water. So Wayne, on my bucket list was, I want to buy a well in my parents' names. I want to buy a well in my children's names. I want to buy a well in my wife's name. And I want to take them to Africa so they can meet the children at their wells. And that's what we did. I took my grown children and their spouses and Ashley, my wife, and then we went over to Africa. I took a picture of me in front of my parents' well with my children and my wife. And I went to each of their wells where they were able to love on the children. There's a lot of talk in this industry about wealth and cars and homes and trips and that's all great. But I'll tell you, where the rubber meets the road for me is if you're not making a difference in other people's lives and it's all just about you, then it's pretty shallow and empty. But to be able to see my kids go to these different schools, Wayne, and see the children, hundreds of children just coming up to them and thanking them for providing them water, where they take a bucket to school and they fill it up and they take it home to their mom. Whereas before they'd have to walk, some of them all night, to get water through the night, where there was really bad things happening in the night. So it's just such a blessing. And these are the side, I guess, benefits when you think of direct selling, that what's possible. Well, you can help people physically with products, financially with a business, but also to be able to plug them into a humanitarian project where they can go out and help others who can't do for themselves. Those are all of the things that I dreamed of that could be possible. And that's how I've lived my life. It's been an amazing life. If some people say that you can come back more than once. If that's the case, I want to come back and live my life all over again, because I wouldn't, it hasn't gone exactly as I'd hoped. I've been married a few times, which, I never would have guessed that, but it happens. Life happens. But you know what? You get up, you fall down, you get up, you fall down. What are the options? I'm just believing that at the end of the day, I'm just going to keep trying to do the best I can for as long as I can, making a difference in as many lives as I can. And at the end of my journey, I think I'm going to look back and believe that there's millions of people on this planet who have either been impacted directly or indirectly as a result of me saying yes and building some different companies. And then when I lay my head on my pillow for the very last time, I'll feel like, you know what? I took up some space on this rock and I made the best of that time that I had.
That's beautiful, Dallin. Thank you for sharing that. There's so much in there that's really important that I want to swing back and talk about a couple of the things. You talked a little bit about relationships, and I do think that, I had the opportunity to know you for a lot of years now. I think that's definitely one of your superpowers. And I think one of the biggest evidences of that is that wherever you've gone, whether it's field, whether it's employees, people have followed you. So you've had an incredible impact on those people. You're obviously, an incredible leader, maybe even a born leader, that all those people have followed you. So I really feel that that's a huge tribute to you, to the leadership style that you have, to the way that you run companies and the way that you treat others. And that's a lesson that I learned from you, certainly over the years. If you look at direct selling, it's a relatively small channel. It's a relatively small industry. I don't like using the word industry, but just to stay in the common vernacular. And those relationships always come back around. So, I mean, my advice to everybody, and I know you told me about this, is never really burn a bridge. You might have a disagreement with someone, at work, you might disagree on a strategy, but make sure you walk out that door really still aligned and known that that's kind of on the business side and that you're still friends. And again, so many people have followed you to so many companies. So kudos to that. You also talked a lot about family, and that was one of the things I wanted to circle back with you. You have done an amazing job of kind of blending, your two worlds, the work world and the personal world. A lot of people keep those pretty separate, and I've probably kept it, more separate than I should, but you've always done an amazing job, even when your kids were little, of really integrating them into your life, into the business, whether it was, when we were in meetings with you, if one of your kids called, you're going to take the call. That's been a huge lesson to me. But it was great to have them, they're learning, but they're at events, and the impact that even this Africa trip and others that you've taken, around some of your foundation and charity work, how has that impacted them? Being able to see kind of that side of you into, over the fence into your business life, but also the impact of being able to see the lives that are changed through direct selling.
Well, I appreciate that, Wayne. I would say, you do the best you can. You can't control what other people think about you. I don't think you ought to even spend 5 minutes thinking about it. You just do the best you can, and nobody's perfect. We make mistakes. I certainly made my share of them. I don't think anybody's as good as some people think they are. And people aren't as bad as some people think they are, based on what hour of the day and what day of the week it is. But I try. I mean, my relationships with my children are precious to me. But I beat myself up a lot because I've traveled a lot. I've been over 70 countries, and on some of these trips, I take my kids. So I've taken them around the world, and I'm grateful for that. So this industry has allowed that. But I've also had challenges. I've got, my oldest son, he's written a book, The Pursuit of Unhappiness, addicted to drugs he saw a bunch of his friends die of heroin and cocaine overdoses. I used to go drive around trying to find my son, hoping and praying that he'd be alive the next day. So that was a decade when I lost my son. And I thought, well, you know what? I lost the marriage with his mother, or we went our separate ways. We're still great friends, by the way. We talk often, and we share 4 children together. But this industry, I don't know. I mean, this business, I should say. I agree with you. I don't like the industry. This channel, you got to. I've just never been that good. I mean, you say I've been balanced, but as I look back on my life, I wish that I could have kept some things together. But I was traveling so much, and it's just hard, right? But you do the best you can. And in the case of where I went through divorce with my kid's mother, just try to keep those relationships. And there's nobody on the planet that I say I hate. I love people, and I love all my children and their mother and their mothers, by the way. So, but now, I mean, I've got a 35-year-old son, no, 36, and with Ashley's 2 youngest, they're 5 and 6. So my youngest is 5, my oldest is 36. That's a pretty big range. I'm on the world's finest anti-aging products, Wayne, because there's a few years difference between me and my wife, and I want to live a long time. But I love my kids, no doubt about it. But I wish that I hope that I've been a good dad. I'm not going to say that I have or I haven't. That's up for them to decide.
Well, I know that's had a big impact on them. Just being able to travel with you, being able to see, whether it's events, the recognition, the lives changed in the field, but also through the many causes that you have founded. I know that that's given them amazing perspective that most people don't ever get in their life. So I've always learned a lot from your ability to kind of blend those two worlds and bring them into your world there.
Well, I would say this. I would encourage owners of companies to incorporate to the degree which you're comfortable your family into your business. That's the culture that I wanted to create. And so, yeah, I take my kids on trips into the conventions, and they've been on the front row to many of my conventions over the years, talking about entrepreneurship and values and the principles that this country was founded upon. And I think it's made an enormous difference. I mean, my children have all done well, and they're doing well. And I think that this this business and this environment where people who are chasing their dreams and are positive minded, goal setting, and willing to go out there and work hard to achieve their goals. I think my children are a byproduct of being in that type of a community, no doubt. So I would encourage owners of companies to make your companies like a family reunion, and don't shush the kids away and make them stay at home. I mean, look, the younger generation, they need this perhaps more than ever. They need to see people who are out there who believe in the American dream of free enterprise and capitalism, and who are willing to go hard and run hard to chase those dreams.
That's amazing advice. It's something I definitely need to do much better at, but it's been great having you as an example there. As I mentioned, this will be a little bit of a different, I think, podcast because you and I have known each other for so long. I'd love to share a couple leadership lessons that I've learned from you, from very specific examples. One, I remember, very early on, you remember the early days. It was card tables and, borrowed laptops, and, literally I look back and those were actually the funnest times. Those, everybody kind of pulling together. But I remember that momentum was really increasing, demand was increasing, and there was a late shipment of some boxes, some packaging that in order for the products to go out the next day, we had to offload all of those. So a couple, I don't know if you remember this or not, but a couple semi trucks pulled up. You, Randy, the other partners grabbed every employee. And this is, late at night. And we all went up to the warehouse and just spent hours unloading the boxes so that we could make sure that we delivered on those products the next day. So those people that were wanting and needing those products, we're going to have access to them. And I think it would have been really easy for a founder, a CEO, and even the other partners to kind of assign that out, to offload that to somebody else. But you guys were right there rolling up your sleeves. And it's a lesson that I learned that, don't ask anybody to do something that you're really not willing to do yourself. And I still think back to that night. It's literally one of the funnest nights. We were laughing all together, throwing boxes around the warehouse. Pretty amazing experience. But to see you and the other leaders there, right with us, the employees doing that had a big impact. Another thing, and I think this helps illustrate kind of your love of people. Again, early days, I don't even think that, health insurance and all of that was worked out, very early days of the launch. And one of the employees that I worked really closely with had a pretty serious health issue. And, cash was tight. We were a startup. It was your money. I mean, you and the owners really mortgaged your house. So there was, a finite amount of money that was going to help keep the company going. But when you heard that, you grabbed a couple of us with a check and drove to that employee's house and said, here, let us know how we can help. And so again, just where that it could have been easy to say that's, his issue. Oh, sorry, sending thoughts and prayers. But you really let the rubber meet the road there. And that's always had a huge impact on me. Those are just a couple of the many experiences where, I learned very valuable leadership questions for you. And I think that's why people follow you from company to company. I'd love to know, continuing with leadership, how has your leadership style changed over time? So obviously, as a young executive, it's going to be one way. And as there's more years and more miles go by, I'm curious how your leadership style shifted.
That's a hard question to answer. Back to what you were saying, I think in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then the book of faith. No, it's not the book of faith. It's the book of Acts. And thoughts and prayers, but acts matter. Action matters. I would say words matter, but actions matter. And faith without works is dead. I think we've got to roll up our sleeves and never feel like you're above anybody in your organization, because truly we're not. I mean, God says he's no respecter of persons. I don't care if you're a billionaire or if you're someone that's on the street. This guy came up to me 2 days ago, actually in the parking lot of the grocery store, and he was pushing his son, and I didn't have any cash on me. And he asked for some money to help pay his rent. And I looked in his eyes, and you make these quick decisions, right? Judgments, which we're not supposed to judge. But I really felt bad. I didn't have any cash. And Ashley was in the grocery store. So I went out and got some. And I went back and found him. And I talked to him for a while. And look, he'd been in the service, Navy, and he'd run on some tough times. And, I think if we find I guess my point is, let's keep our eyes open for people who we can help. And it's amazing how one small act of kindness can maybe change someone's life, where they feel like there's nobody on the planet that even recognizes them. Well, let's us be those people that recognize them, whether it's $1 or $100 or whatever, to be able to help. And I hear people all the time say, well, they could get a job. There's, we're hiring and stuff, but you don't know. You don't know the circumstances. I would rather err on the side of generosity than judgment in life. And so, but my leadership style, well, I'm a get things done guy, Wayne. I make my list and I check it off. And I think I've got a really good innate, intuitive sense of this business that we're in, of direct selling. And that has served me quite well for my career. I'm not saying I've gotten everything right. In fact, with Vasayo, just about every decision I've made has been challenging, where I thought, wow, I probably shouldn't have done that. But you know what? You just do the best you can. You get up in the batter's box, you swing and you swing and you swing. And sometimes you're going to strike out, and sometimes you're going to hit a single. And sometimes the bases are going to get loaded and maybe you'll hit a grand slam. I've had a few grand slams and I've struck out a few times. But you know what? You get back up into the batter's box. But I've been someone who I like to get things done. I'm not the best delegator because I don't want to I've not been very good at spending the time to teach someone to do what I do. And that's a weakness of mine. But with Vasayo, I brought on a partner, Daniel, and recently over the last year, I stepped aside as the CEO. I got married. I wanted to spend time on my marriage, partly that, but also because he'd been with me for 4 years, I had gained trust in Daniel's abilities to lead the company. So I'm the founder and chairman now, rather than founder, chairman, CEO, and Daniel's now the CEO. So I've allowed him. And I think part of a leader is to not just get in and say, no, you're doing that wrong, even though you may feel like it's wrong or you would do it differently. It's allowing people the room to grow and to have experiences, because through experiences, then you're going to be growing. So I've said to Daniel, look, I'm here as a resource. We talk about all major decisions and I give him my opinion, but also at the end of the day, I let him make a lot of decisions. So I guess my leadership style has evolved. I look at someone like Lee Iacocca at Chrysler, and after he left, the company folded. I think the sign of a great leader, Wade, is someone who's able to have a succession plan where they may be really good at what they do, but if they don't train someone up to be able to take those reins and lead after you're in a different season of your life, then what good is it? You've done some good for a few decades, maybe. But if the company goes out of business when you leave, then you weren't really the best leader. I look at Amway with Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel and how that's a legacy company because they were able to train people up so that after they're gone, the company continues. So I think all of us need to be looking at, let's say that something happened, God forbid, and you're gone tomorrow. Is your business in a place where it'll continue with or without you? And if the answer is you don't know, then you better spend some time making sure that you've done the best you can to not duplicate yourself, but to find someone with their own unique personality and style, because no two people are alike. You got to honor the way that they lead, but make sure you got the succession plan in place so that, plan for those things, plan for the worst, so that if that were to happen, then your company and more importantly, the people, not the company, but the people who are trusting you and putting their time in your hands because they trust that you're going to lead them to the promised land and keep your word on paying them commissions and shipping them quality products and working with integrity and operating ethically, that will go on and outlive you. That's a legacy, Wayne. I didn't get back into this business to build something for 2 or 5 years. I want a legacy company. I know that what we've done over in Africa will outlive me. I know that now we've got about 500,000 children in Africa, in Tanzania primarily, but some in Uganda and some in Kenya, who are now drinking fresh water. There's over 2,000 kids that die every day on the continent of Africa under the age of 5 because they don't have access to fresh water in 2022. So we've now got enough water and enough wells in different schools to provide water for about 500,000 kids. So I feel like if something were to happen to me today, those wells are going to continue providing fresh water. And I believe that the company is in good hands. It will continue to grow. and prosper with the products and leadership that we have in place. So at this stage of my life, in my early 60s, I've become more probably what's the right word? I'm looking at the future and realizing my own mortality. I still feel pretty dang young, and I've got a lot of energy. I'm planning on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, June of 2023.
Oh, that's
an
amazing.
8-day hike. It's the highest freestanding mountain in the world. So knock on wood, I'm able to do it. But I'm realizing that my role has probably shifted some, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, I love that, Dallin. That was beautiful. I think you've got an amazing partner in Daniel. He is really wicked smart, a great operator. He's someone that I think anyone would want running their company. Along the lines of partnership, this is something I wanted to touch on with you. We talk about, when we think about entrepreneurs, it's usually this kind of solopreneur, this very lonely experience of sitting there and kind of grinding it out on your own. And I do think that's the case sometimes. But I think most companies, when they're founded, it's by, there's multiple partners. And I think you've done an amazing job of bringing partners, the right partners in your companies. And I'm curious, what advice would you have to somebody in selecting a partnership, how to work with partners, how to, occasionally disagree, but then again, align on the right strategic go forward? What's that role of selecting the right partners for you?
Well, again, I think I go by my gut a lot. I wanted to find someone that had strengths that were weaknesses of mine. Daniel is probably, he's a member of the Mensa Society. I didn't even know what the Mensa Society was before meeting Daniel. I think he got like a 36 on the ACT, which is perfect. He's truly probably on one hand, the smartest people. So I wanted to find someone with strengths that I didn't possess. I'm not great at finance and operations. He's really great at operations and putting the team in place. I'm a visionary. I love to go out there, build relationships, cast a vision, and then leave the rest of it to Daniel and the team to deliver and ship the products and pay the commissions. I like to create the culture and things like that. So those are the strengths that he's got. I think you got to be able to get along, right? Because you're going to spend a lot of time together. It's like a marriage, and it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be times when you disagree, but do you have the type of relationship where it's respectful? And sometimes you're going to get in each other's grill, right? And have some serious disagreements. We've had a couple of those, not many. So I've been blessed with good partners. I've had people want to partner with me that I said no to, not that I don't care for them. I love people. I trust people, maybe to a fault, but that has served me well for the most part in my life. I trust them until proven otherwise. But I just go by my gut, I guess, Wayne, and say, would they be good in this situation, this situation, this situation? And then that's how I've made my choices. And thankfully, I've had some pretty darn good partners through my career.
Yeah, I've known a few of them, but I think that's great advice. So kind of filling the skill gap. So again, maybe something that's not in your wheelhouse, or that's not your specialty, but also I do think the ability to just get along, to eventually align, again, to have that respectful disagreements, but be able to really see that go forward and move that way.
Yeah, someone who's got a different perspective. I already know what my perspective
really
is.
Important.
Tell me what your perspective is and what am I missing here? I think it's super healthy.
Super valuable.
And that's what we're not doing enough in Washington, D.C. right now. By the way, they want to find people who think like they do. That's why we watch this show, the news choice, because we want to listen to people who think like we do. I think that's the absolute wrong approach. Adam Grant is a great author, by the way. His book, Think Again, I would commend that book to about everybody. It challenges the way that you think. And I would say in the book, he says that saying and acknowledging that you don't know is a very healthy thing. The older I get, I've said this over and over again, then I read the book and I felt better about saying it. For a while, I didn't like saying that. The older I get, the less I feel like I know. And in that book, he said, that's a place of wisdom, to be able to say, I don't know. Instead of pretending and believing that you know everything, I think it's healthy to say, I don't know. It may be this, it may be that, but I don't know. What do you think? And then listening to other opinions before, maybe I used to be ready, fire, aim. A lot of my career. Now I'm maybe a little bit more ready, aim, and fire. So that's probably just evolution and getting a few more years under my belt, a few more trips around the sun, realizing I don't know as much as I thought I did when I was 20, 30, and 40.
Now, having that diversity of thought in all of our companies, I think is vital, and diversity in all its forms, as a channel and outside the channel. I think there's a lot we need to do to bring greater diversity into the boardrooms, into the conference rooms, and throughout our company. I think it's going to make a far better outcome. Another kind of entrepreneurial question I want to ask you is around the power of a pivot. So we always kind of idolize the grit, the tenacity of an entrepreneur. But I think one of the powerful dynamics and gifts that an entrepreneur needs to have is the ability to recognize when it's time to pivot. And I know that Monavie came out of a pivot. And I'm curious, how did you know that it was the right time to, really put everything behind this one product, this one opportunity, and build it out instead of continuing to just grind and grind?
Well, I think you have to look at the market. You may fall in love. One of the most dangerous things is to fall in love with your own ideas. And you got to look at the market and what the market is asking for. When COVID hit, we pivoted. We didn't panic. Maybe panic a little bit like everybody else, but we quickly pivoted from meetings to Zooms. And you lost some intimacy in a Zoom that you don't get in a person-to-person built meeting. It's been 3 years since we've had a convention at Vasayo. And we're not having one this summer. We're waiting until January, and hopefully January 2023 in Dallas, we're going to have our first convention. What would have been over 3 years. So the world changed. Someone moved our cheese. You better figure out how to pivot. And this industry, this channel, as you know, Wayne, is good or better than almost anybody has done a 180. The day of talking about cars and homes and how much money how big your check was, those days are gone. And people can keep pretending like they're not, but Amazon moved the cheese. We've got to compete with Amazon. And I think we ought to be pounding the drum of local business and small business. And yeah, Jeff Bezos has enough. Okay. He's got a lot. I'm not going to say enough. I don't know that anybody's ever got enough. I'm not going to, by the way, I have nothing but respect for his vision and what he was able to build. But you know what? There's a lot of families out there that need an extra $500 a month more than Jeff Bezos needs it. And so I'm a big proponent of small business and entrepreneurship and direct selling to help people make an extra $500 or $1,000 a month. Man, you better start learning how to brand yourself on social media and build your network that way and have a product that the people want versus talking about the 1980s. They're not here. 2000 is gone. It's 2022. The world has changed. It's the age of influence and social influencers. I like it, and I also don't like it. I don't like that people are on the phone all the time. And I don't like going out to a restaurant and seeing parents and kids all looking at their phones instead of looking at the eyes of members of their family and communicating. They were saying where TikTok is here, and it's like people used to watch a 5-minute video. The early days of Monavie, we had an 8-minute video. It was fantastic. And then it went down to 5 minutes. And now, man, if your video is more than a minute long, forget about it. You're not going to keep anyone's attention that's 20 and 30 years old for 5 minutes. So, by the way, we've lost everybody, Wayne, because this interview's gone way too long for people's attention span.
I don't think so. No.
But nonetheless, the world's cheese moved, and we have to pivot. We don't panic. We evolve, and we get people who are younger, perhaps, and understanding what do we need to do to be relevant now. We may have been relevant 5 years ago, but we're not relevant now unless we pivot. So we've pivoted a few times as a company, more than a few times. It's painful, right? It's painful. There's a lot of unknown about it. Man, you better be brave. You better be brave, and you better do the right thing. How about we wrap up with this? I'm going to tell you, when I went to Washington, D.C. for direct selling event, it's about over 20 years ago now. Norman Schwarzkopf was the keynote. Remember him? He was the general of the war in 1999 in Kuwait. And he talked about how he became a general. And I think this is appropriate for anybody leading a company. He said he was nervous. How do I lead troops into battle? And he went into Washington, D.C. to the retiring general's office. This general is packing up his office. This was the general that Norman Schwarzkopf was replacing. And he asked for a few minutes of his time to be mentored, what to do. And this man said, keep your mission simple. Write down your key objectives, and they can only be a few. Keep it very simple. That was one of the keys to Monavie. It was simple. It's simple. It's fun. Just a very simple, one bottle of juice. We kept it simple back then. But this retiring general said, keep it simple. A few objectives. He got his briefcase and started to walk out. And he said, that's it? And he put his briefcase down. And he turned to face Norman Schwarzkopf. And he said these words to him, always do the right thing. And he picked up his briefcase and he left the office. Keep your vision and mission simple for your community and always do the right thing for them. If you do that, I think we all have a chance to impact lots of people's lives who are hurting right now, many of whom are on their knees saying, God, I need your help, man. Gas at $6 a gallon, $5 a gallon, grocery prices up. I can't even afford to go to work. A lot of people hurting right now. And we've got an answer in this channel of direct selling that is so pure when done right and so poor when done wrong. So be a credit to this channel. Always do the right thing.
That is a perfect spot to end on. Dallin, thank you for all you've done for not just me, but so many people, for the channel, for the example that you've been. Give my best to your family and really appreciate the time. I know I learned a lot and the listeners will as well.
Thank you for tuning in. Since 2004, DSN has proudly served the direct selling industry and the executives that lead it. Our mission is to serve, educate, and edify the channel as your go-to daily resource for breaking global news, emerging trends, and powerful stories so you can stay informed, engaged, and always one step ahead as it relates to the business of direct selling. We invite you to subscribe to the podcast so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach Podcast.